Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Legal Unicorns. I'm your host, Rob Green, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Frieda Levycky. I'll give you a little introduction to Frieda in a second, but really it's the purpose of this quick episode is really to delve into what it's like transferring from practice to in-house, back to practice, and then setting yourself up as a consultant, perhaps overseas as well, which Frieda has done all of and the above. And it's really come from, as I was just telling Frieda off camera, it's really come from so many requests that we have had from senior lawyers who are maybe a little bit nervous about taking that first step into consultancy and what it means and what it looks like. And in addition to that, as again, I was just explaining to Frieda, for those of you who may have read our recent research report, which was entitled The 3 Meta Trends of Work, we've discovered through partnerships and research that we've read and some of the work that our research team has done is specifically based on the LexisNexis report that stated that 30% of all solicitors in the UK would be working in the gig economy by 2026. Which is only now 2.5 years away. And that means that 30% of all solicitors in the UK will be working for themselves as a consultant and not as a traditional employee. Our research team then went on to dig a little bit deeper, bring in global research, and the feeling and the numbers and the data are saying that possibly by 2035, that globally that could be as high as 70% of the legal professional workforce working for themselves or on a project basis as opposed to the traditional employee. So first and foremost, thank you and welcome, Frieda. Thanks again for joining us.
It's an absolute pleasure. Gosh, I didn't realise the numbers were so high. That's quite impressive, hey? 70%.
Yeah, I think it is impressive, and it's just signifying this enormous shift in work and the way that people want to work. And the way that legal services are going to be delivered going forward. And we all know that law, as wonderful as an industry and sector as it is, took a little bit of time to sort of take technology by the horns and really start driving change. And that is really, really happening. So I want to get quickly into you and in your journey, if I may. And I'll try not do my usual, which is to jump around and ask 50 different things at once. But really, I just want to get to grips and tell, so the listeners who are perhaps feeling like they want to go in the same direction as you know what maybe some of the decisions that you made that got you there. And it's probably, just before I jump in, it's probably worth me noting as well that, and I will probably get this wrong, but you've had a stellar career and a wonderful global career working in the law across London, Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, Geneva, and now South Africa. But your work, which is amazing, but your work actually goes much further than that, right? I mean, it covers even more borders and countries and cities than that. So I think you're in a really unique position to be able to explain to people who are listening how to take those next career steps. So first and foremost, when you went into practice, I'm not going to say way back when, but when you started your career, and which I think was at Norton Rose, is that right?
Yeah.
In London, and you were a fresh-faced associate, you'd just been admitted. Did you, at that time, if you can think back, did you think that you might stay in practice your whole career? Did you see that traditional career path ahead of you to be a partner?
Still fresh-faced-ish, but do you know what? Yes, I thought I was going to be a partner from day one. So I went in, I was one of those trainees that was super keen, and I put myself, I think it was month 3 that I had volunteered to be part of the HSBC Key Client Program. And, I was exposed to Roger Berkby, I think it was, who was the managing partner at the time, and Margaret, and, everybody who was like the people I needed to know. The whole executive committee was involved. So So I knew, like, I kind of knew how to play the field from a very young age to be seen and to show my capability, even though there was that naivety and probably a little bit of arrogance in those younger years. But I do remember seeing, I think it was John Perry becoming a partner, and the youngest partner at Norton Rose. Sorry, that's my dog shaking. The youngest partner at Norton Rose at the time, and thinking, right, I'm going to do that a year younger. I'm going to be the youngest partner. So yeah, no, I saw myself being in private practice my entire career.
Yeah, and I suspect that's what most lawyers feel when they become admitted, that is their career path. And we won't go into too much on this particular episode, but one of the things I touched on in a speech about the future of legal careers back in November was that when, say, 20 years ago, when lawyers were stepping into the career of a lawyer, there really wasn't as many options as there is now, and possibly that will be going forward. But okay, so without rushing through your career, which has been again stellar to date, it's really, where do you remember when you started getting the sense of perhaps what might appeal about in-house and a move into the corporate side, and do you remember what it was that appealed to you about that?
So initially I went on secondment in-house. So it wasn't a choice initially. I really wouldn't have had a clue what in-house involved had I not had that opportunity. But once I had experienced it, the thing that I loved about in-house was the less legal side of it and the more business and strategy, and the fact that I wasn't just doing legal things. It was a lot more practical. I had to provide advice that was legal advice, but with a lot more flexibility and practical applicability. And that required different skill sets. It required more involvement with the tax team and the accounting team and the board of directors. It was more involved. It was more fun. I really enjoyed the chance to actually travel when I was working in-house, to actually go and see the projects, which I didn't get to do as an associate because it wouldn't have been very cost effective for the client. Whereas when you're in-house, you're required to actually go and see what you're working on. So that the appeal was being closer to the ground and not being at the beck of call at my clients, which is what you are when you're in private practice.
Yeah, I suppose it's a complete change, isn't it? You're going from doing specific pieces of work for the client, and obviously there's all the challenges of the charge out rate and the hours it's taking, and there's a whole different way of delivering that project. And then when you're in-house, you're much closer to the business. You're much more, like you've said, they're strategic. You're looking at reasons why you're doing it. I guess even probably from day one, you're seeing the impact of what the work that the lawyer does from practice has on the business. In terms of, if it's wrong, it slows everything down, and if it's right, I get you there. When you crossed over from practice to in-house, was there anything that you can remember that was potentially a particular downside, or anything that, apart from what we've just said, is there anything that was
one of the things I remember everybody saying is that if you go in-house, you work a lot less hours and it's so much easier. And I think I worked just as hard, if not harder, when I moved from private practice to in-house. I think that's a complete farce, depending on how the in-house legal team is structured. So, for example, I used to work for Louis Dreyfus, and we did a lot of work hands-on. So we drafted, we negotiated as the in-house legal team, with sometimes the support of external counsel, but we led the team. So I know that some in-house teams rely very heavily on external counsel, and so it's more like a quick check of things to move on. So I would imagine that there is a much greater shift towards, if we're going to invest in you, you'll do the work, versus relying on external counsel, unless you absolutely need them for litigation or legal opinions, or the big stuff that's got high exposure.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring that up, actually, because it's something that we've noticed with a lot of lawyers that I've helped and we've helped with their careers. And there was always that perception that it was going to be an easier life, that I wouldn't have to work all hours God sends. But more and more people are realizing now that part of the in-house role is to actually reduce the cost that is being spent on external counsel. Therefore, you might have to work a little bit longer. But it's interesting that you found that. And then in terms of your specific career, when you were at Louis Dreyfus in Switzerland for a number of years, but then again, I know personally, because from times we've spoken before, you then took some time off and traveled, and one of the reasons you ended up in Cape Town. But what did was that really was it time to take a bit of a break? Was that the reason that you moved away from in-house? Was it time to travel, regenerate yourself, rejuvenate yourself, or were there other reasons for moving away from in-house?
Yeah, to be honest, yes. The reason I there's a good double negative for you. I loved my job. I loved being a lawyer, except what I realized was that law was everything. So my job had become so intertwined in every other aspect of my life that there was no reprieve from it. So, for example, my romantic relationships, my friendships, my social life, my sporting career, because I ended up going and running with my friends from work, everything about my life had an element of work in it. So there was no reprieve, and there was no kind of external perspective. So when things became difficult, as they always do at some stage in your daily working life, you're going to face conflict. I didn't have anybody to go back to and talk and to kind of take myself away from. So I took a year out to regain that perspective and to regain balance in my life, which was very much missing. And it gave me a chance to go, actually, I really do love being a lawyer, but can I do things differently?
This is so important, especially it's really one of the key reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I know that there's so many lawyers, thousands, if not tens of thousands of lawyers out there thinking about the same thing, feeling the same thing, probably needing a bit of a break, needing to re-energize. And so hearing from you that has ultimately made such a success of taking that break and being good to yourself it's an important step in your journey, but it's something that I think some people are quite scared of. Were you apprehensive did you feel like you were giving up your identity, or was there anything that when you took that break?
It was less about giving up my identity, because I was always going to be a lawyer. It was the fear of, what if I can't get another job after? It wasn't going on sabbatical. I was quitting. I was leaving for good without any security of coming back. And I remember talking to a friend of mine, Caesar, at the time, and he went through this list of questions with me on, do you have enough experience? Are you a good lawyer? Are you capable? Do you have enough of a network and connections? Are you regularly in touch with people so that you can build a network again when you're ready to come back? So really simple questions that challenged this false belief that I was holding that I'd never get a job again, which is worst case scenario thinking, and actually bringing it back and going, actually, there's nothing to suggest that I cannot do this again. There's nothing I've never failed before in finding a job. Why should it be different this time? So it was really challenging those false beliefs that potentially could have kept me locked in a career where I knew I needed a change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's incredible advice for everybody as well, because it's so much of taking that break that one needs, or making that change one needs. So much of but perhaps the decision not to do it is driven by your own fears and your own head telling you. Well, it sounds like your friend Caesar there was brilliant, and
yeah, he was very good. Wasn't even a coach.
I was going to say, I have to get him on the podcast and get those questions because that's a really valuable thing. And I think just to add to that from my own experience, I remember when I made the decision to go out on my own, my wife, Marie, who you know, had the same conversation with me that's similar to what the one that Caesar had with you, which is she just sat me down and just said, look, if it doesn't work, what would you do? Would you be able to get another job? Would you be able to? Are you a good recruiter? Are you good at what you do? Do you, have you got the energy and the fire and the passion? And all the answers were yes. And it was like, well, then go make some mistakes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, we all need a little bit of that, and that's great. And this is why I think this particular interview is going to be really useful for people who probably are sitting there going, oh, should I do it? Should I do it? Well, the answer is yes. Now, as you went on your travels and you then came back into the workforce when you were ready, and you started working for Mothers to Mothers, and you became a partner at Eversheds, and then you worked for a number of years doing that, if I remember rightly, just a handful of years before your passion for, well, first of all, for consulting on your own, but also for your fantastic business, which we must give a shout out to, Braving Boundaries, which you can please tell us all about that in a second. But I want to say congratulations because you're celebrating your 3rd birthday this month, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic, amazing, and it's so lovely for me because I remember the beginning. Which is fantastic. But that again is something that you were very brave in doing. But so when you were working and you were, again, I guess salaried, and you were what made the decision to consult and to take the leap to set up your own, well, 2 businesses of your own?
So, well, I suppose, first of all, there was a clear intention from my part to set up a consultancy. And there was 2 reasons for that. One is, oh dear, I don't know. This is very much my personality. So I'll try and explain it from that perspective. I'm not very good with hierarchy. So the legal institutions, particularly private practice, is very hierarchical. So there is an expectation that you will respect people based on their position and not really challenge positions. So I'm very much of the view, and I've been brought up this way by my parents, of no, everybody is treated the same. Everybody earns respect based on the way that they treat other people, but everybody's equal. So I struggle with hierarchy as an individual. I like to be able to talk to everybody and treat everybody the same. So that I had as a problem with private practice as a whole. And then the second point, which leads on from that, really is conforming. So conformity is not really one of my strengths either, which I struggled, particularly in private practice, with how many people you had to ask permission from in order to get anything done. I thought it was one of the most ineffective forms of business model. I didn't agree with billable hours. I don't really agree with the pressure of having this massive revenue target and you're a failure if you don't hit certain targets. I don't think it's a healthy mentality to work in. We were planning on setting up the Cape Town office and 20 different people had to have a say in it. I believed that I could run a consultancy on a much more cost-effective and efficient basis and still be successful. So it was a breakaway from restriction and conformity, which is very much my Enneagram 7 personality, I've realized since then, but also efficiency and freedom, which is the opposite of the restriction of being able to do it the way I want to do it without having to get permission. So yeah, that was why I left. Did it come with its own set of fears? Of course it did.
Yeah, I think that again, though, is something that the listeners of this interview will it will resonate with many people, is that there's something that doesn't quite sit with them in that law firm model, and they're not maybe 100% sure what to do about it. Now, some trailblazers and brave professionals like yourself have made that path and said, no, we can do it. We can do it in a different way that suits your personality, that suits the way that you want to work. And the clients, I guess, are delighted that they're getting, this expert service, still, when they need it, and at the level they need it at. But you, the deliverer, are much happier in respect of the environment you work in, which, it would be hard to tell, but you're certainly happier delivering it that way. So perhaps your work is even better. Well, certainly with a smile anyway, I guess.
Big smile on it.
Now, at the same time you were setting up the consultancy, and again, I'll be sensitive to this, but one of the big fears for people who are setting up on their own is that where am I going to get the work from? And again, I'm being sensitive because obviously I appreciate that there's, there are sensitivities around that kind of thing. Confidentiality and that kind of thing. But but is there anything that you could say to people that are a bit worried about that? Is there any tips you've given people?
So the way that I got comfortable with it, I suppose, is that, granted, I didn't have a non-compete, so that I actually would make absolutely no difference whether I did or I didn't, because the reality is that your law firm clients or your in-house clients, you build relationships with your clients. It's got nothing to do with who owns what and this, that, and the other. Is that your clients want to work with you as a lawyer. So I had brought my clients in, I had nurtured them, I had built the relationship with them. When I left, they didn't know anybody else to work with, and they didn't want to work with anybody else. So whether I had a big brand behind me or not, wasn't stealing anything. I mean, I literally just went, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. And they said, right, where are you going? Right, how do we sign up? And I said, well, I don't have the big professional indemnity insurance behind me, and I can't give legal opinions. I'm setting up a consultancy model. I'm not a law firm. You're going out, you want expert opinion, you go out. No, we want basically an in-house counsel, or we want, whatever model it is, a consultant. And that was what they wanted. And it's about the relationship. If you've got clients who you solely work with and they love working with you, they will follow. And if they don't, then, the other part of it, not everybody came with me. So it was a case of going, well, actually, how do I go out? I'm going to go out to my network. They know me. I've got a ton of, I've looked after my friends and my colleagues. I've stayed in touch with them for the years. I reached out, there we go. I reached out to them and said, this is what I'm doing. I'm setting up a consultancy. I then went and physically did a marketing trip. So I put some money out into the business, and I went and explored that side of things, caught up with people, just had conversations, telling them about what I was doing. And then when they needed me, they knew where to come.
Brilliant advice. And I'm taking so much away from that as well. You've made it sound very simple, but I know that there's a lot of lawyers that are very challenged by that sort of putting themselves out there and that business development edge. But hearing the way that you've delivered that is, yes, it takes a little bit of guts to get out there and put yourself out there, but you've made it sound very comfortable, and I'm sure that people will appreciate that when they come to do it for themselves.
Yeah, the best piece of advice I can give from that is that know your personality. So, and I suppose this is the best piece of advice I can give, is that you need to be confident, not arrogant, when you're going out and marketing yourself. So arrogance is wandering around with this air of superiority and I know everything and nobody needs to help me. And, I am the God. Confidence has a humility attached to it. And you know that you don't know everything. You know you're not the best at everything, but you do believe in yourself. You know your strengths, you know your capabilities, and you base that on previous experience that you've got. And that's what you take forward. So I had to build up my confidence in order to market. And I did this, whether in private practice or as a consultant, is that to go out, I needed to go, well, where are my strengths? Where can I add value? Where can I help people? Where am I comfortable doing this? So, for example, doing an STF transaction, I hated doing them. I can do them, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. Mergers and acquisitions, corporate, cool. I'm very happy there. Commodities, very happy. Africa, very happy. So, it's where do I want to work? Who do I want to work with? And how can I express that? And how can I passionately express that to do it? So I don't sell. I don't go out going, I'm the best lawyer in this. I go out and say, should we have a chat? I want to hear about your business. How's your wife? How's your husband? I want to know the person behind the business. I have a very heart-centered approach to business, not a head-centered approach.
Wonderful. And I think there is obviously other fears that people may have, how much of a runway have they got in their bank to be able to sort of, give them the space to build it. And there'll be other issues, but you've summed it up perfectly there in the sense that it's really about being true to yourself at the start and remembering the skills you bring and approaching it in your way. Now, with you, I've got two quick other questions, but have there been any downsides that you care to share of working for yourself as a consultant?
Admin. I have to do my admin and marketing. So at the beginning, there was a lot of upfront cost. So, I had budgeted for that before I set out, just so I had the budget to go and market, because that's where your money spend is at the beginning. That is a downside because, you don't see it. I suppose it's the lack of security can really worry you. I was fortunate. I had a couple of clients that came with me straight away. So I wasn't as exposed, but I had kind of prepared in case I was. But security is the biggest downside for consultancy, is that, clients leave. So they need you for a time. Then you have to go out and market again, potentially, or you build in a retainer model and you keep your clients for X number of months. So I think a big piece of advice is that know your personality. If you're somebody who absolutely loves security and the comfort of a monthly paycheck of the same amount, then I would really question whether consultancy is the right direction for you. If it is, I'm quite risk capable, and I believe in myself, I've got the confidence that I can do this, then give it a whirl. But I do think it's personality.
The security aspect is something that we deal with here at GRM a lot, because it's obviously dealing with people with who either looking for a new change or looking or have been made redundant or whatever it may be. The security aspect is something that we discuss a lot with people. And I think as the older you get as well, sometimes you realize that there isn't as much security in a full-time position as you wish.
As COVID has proven, hey? So.
As COVID has proven, and then now we've got all the tech layoffs, and I know that that's now extended to South Africa, because I know people in the tech space who've just literally this week already have found out that they've lost their jobs. So it's you're without sounding crass and callous, the writing can be on the wall. Your name can be on that list in a big company anyway. But that's good to know. I'm glad you brought that back. Thank you for that. Which is know yourself, know your risk appetite almost, and be true to yourself. Now,
and I suppose then the opportunity is, it's not just consultancy is the option. It's okay if I need the security. Are there other job opportunities Is there in-house opportunity? Is there a different private practice? Is there a smaller firm that gives you more flexibility? You know, there's different pathways.
Absolutely. And now we have projects like with alternative legal service providers, and they're working in a slightly different way as well, which is fantastic. But I want to get onto, before I let you go and have your day, I want to talk about braving boundaries, if I can, because alongside your consultancy that you were setting up to do your legal work, you also ventured into the coaching space, the one-on-one coaching space, specifically at the beginning for lawyers, but I know that that's now extended to a lot of different professions as well. Could you tell us about Braving Boundaries and how it's gone and what it's really given you as a professional in terms of your soul and enabled you to experience?
Yeah, so Braving Boundaries stemmed from the fact that when you say you've got a split personality, it sounds a bit dodgy, but I do. I have a split personality. I have a very legal, analytical mind, and I love being a lawyer. But I have this big heart and soul part of me that just wants to help people. And it's probably partly to do with the fact that I'm middle-aged now, and I've got a much more generative and external view of the world and want to help people. So Braving Boundaries was to really help on the mental health side of law initially, and helping people who had struggled in ways that I had whilst I was in legal practice, and giving them an outlet to be able to voice their concerns, to deal with their stress, to deal with the overwhelm, for helping those people that felt lost and stuck in their careers or personal life, because everything gets affected by big, demanding careers, particularly ones that demand so much of your time. So that was the original step. I then realized that a lot of people that weren't lawyers were coming to me as well. So we expanded out of just the legal industry. And now it focuses on individuals, but it also uses the Enneagram to help people understand their personalities and build self-awareness more. And last year it expanded into, dogs are going to bark, expanded into the corporate team environment to help teams communicate better, because again, it's all about relationships, whether it's with clients and clients and their lawyer, or within the internal teams. And that's the focus now, is really to help people communicate better with themselves in their own lives and within their corporate environments.
And people can reach you on bravingboundaries.com, and then I know that you're over the socials as well.
Sorry.
How did you find it starting the two businesses in conjunction with each other? Was it tough to split your time? I guess 3 years in, it's much more fluid in terms of the way that you how you split your time. But was it difficult at the beginning to find the time for both?
Initially, there was a pull between, what do I put myself out as? Am I a lawyer? Am I a coach? Oh, which one sounds better? And I could feel the identity of the lawyer trying to push its way forward to the front. Splitting time, no, because I had entered into a retainer with my main clients. So they got allocated hours, and I had specifically preserved time for Braving Boundaries. So, and the development of it. So I'd actually managed, bizarrely for me, that quite well. I was very conscious that I didn't want this just as a fun project on the side. I wanted it to develop into a business, because it really does help people. So that was what I was very conscious of doing it. And I must say, we were talking about the downsides of owning your own consultancy. There's a ton of upsides as well, which is you manage your own time. I can enter retainers to provide some comfort from a security, monthly security perspective. I don't have a pension, but I've got a savings plan. There's different alternatives, which, I don't get the employment benefits, but I can cater for that. I can take a month off. I'm getting married in 8 days time, and I've taken the whole of April off. So, there is, and no one's whinging at me. So there are a lot of benefits as well, but it does, and the fact that I can run 2 separate businesses without anyone challenging that and questioning whether I'm dedicating sufficient time. And also that we were talking earlier about that big revenue model of you've got to hit those targets, hit. I can actually work more if I want to, or I can take that month off if I want to, and I can adjust my monetary flow depending on what I feel like I need at that point. So there's the benefit side of consultancy and working for yourself when you're looking, in contrast to the difficulties as well.
And I will add to that as well, in terms of working for yourself. One of the things that I discovered, and I'm sure you have as well, is that you get to work with who you want to work with.
Yes.
I guess at the beginning you've got to try and get the money in, or your situation was slightly different to maybe mine, but as time's gone on, you get to select, and that goes back to the way you put it was really nice, with having sort of a heart-centric approach. It's, what I've found is that I'm going to work with people that I want, that I like, and that I can believe in, and that aren't going to, and are going to treat me with respect as well.
That's so key, and you're right. Is that, yes, at the beginning there can be that kind of fear-driven approach to I've got to get the money through the door. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. Okay, maybe that is the case at the beginning, but actually, fewer clients who pay better and you like working with is way more valuable than lots of clients who pay shit and don't have any respect for you. Sorry, I shouldn't have sworn on live, but who don't respect you. I've built in my contract with my clients at the moment. Each has a clause in there that says I'm taking a month off. You're not to contact me for April. And they're all like, fine, sign off. You're getting married and going on honeymoon. Brilliant. How respectful that is beyond. They all know, they're all excited for me. There's a plan in place to cover. It's good.
And it's a proper partnership. It's a proper partnership between you and your client. And it's getting the best out of you, and there's so many upsides. Before I let you go, is there any final message that you might think of that you would give anyone who's battling with the idea of perhaps moving into a consulting position as a lawyer?
No, I think I've said it all, but so the key points are confidence is key. So build up your confidence. Will you have clients that will come with you, or can you find clients? Do you have the financial capability to buffer yourself, and do you have the experience to be able to go? If you're 2 years junior associate and you want to become a consultant, I would question that. Do you have the right experience? Yes, you can have experience from all walks of life. You do need legal experience. There is value in having training under you before you become a consultant, in my opinion. And don't think small. So when you go in, become a consultant, there is that kind of, I'm only a consultant, or don't have the big brand behind me anymore. I can only do certain things. I can't start hitting top value clients. That is BS. They can come in. You if you've got experience, you can go and market yourself, and you can be really sure that you can deliver a good product, and go and find those clients that need you. So you've got to remember that you were talking about the shift into consultancy and why that is. The reason is that firms don't want to pay the big bucks to external law firms, like hundreds of thousands of pounds, still in pounds, I'm still British, hundreds of thousands of pounds who are on a yearly basis. They also don't want to bring in necessarily a full-time in-house legal team. So there's this hybrid approach that's coming of having kind of a quasi in-house counsel role, quasi GC role. We need you when we need you, or we need you just for a few hours every week or month. So think differently, think bigger. Don't limit yourselves.
I love that advice. Don't think small. It's really, really, really sound advice. And you've just hit the nail on the head there with regard to the way that clients are determining that legal services is to be delivered in I don't want to say cheaper, but in a more cost-effective way,
more cost-effective.
it has led to this change in the industry. So look, I'm going to let you go. I want everybody, first step, to go on to bravingboundaries.com and try and get some of Frieda's time, find out about yourself, find out about whether it's for you, but certainly reach out to her on the socials as well. Follow her fantastic newsletter, which you can sign up to, I think, on the website, if I'm right. Bravingboundaries.com. All the links will be in the below anyway. But Freida is one of the real true trailblazers that I've met. She has unique experience in the legal space, unique to South Africa because of your global experience and exposure. You are my friend. I'm so very proud of you. I'm so proud of everything you've achieved in terms of braving boundaries in your own consultancy. You are someone I look up to. I'm really looking forward to your wedding. With yours and Justin, I must say, your husband to be, is his day as well, in a week or so's time. Thank you so much, Freida. Thank you so much for your time, sharing your journey with us today. It's going to be invaluable advice for people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you very soon.
You will. Thanks.